We all have childhood memories. Some fade over time while others grow more vivid. In the winter of 2009, a childhood friend of mine, Dan Snyder, was about to undergo a heart transplant. Former classmates were reunited as we followed his life or death struggle. One day an email from his wife, Karen, addressed to about 20 lifelong friends, told of an ICU visit from two of our mates. The email recounted the howls of laughter coming from the ICU the night before that were the product of stories being recalled. Some harkened back to the glory days of our youth in the 1960s. Karen ended by saying that sometimes laughter is the best medicine. That was all it took for several of us, separated by many miles, to share our stories in hopes of prolonging the laughter and helping in some small way with Dan's battle.
In the summer of 1967, as I recall, it would have been in late July, in the heartland of our nation, I can picture Lyons, Kansas in my mind. Just a small town full of ordinary people. Tradition played a big part in our lives. Teens would drive around the square, shooting moons and drinking beer. It was summertime and love was in the air. But I was just a kid, and everything I did was the only thing that mattered in my life. Riding bikes down to the park, staying out way after dark, chasing fireflies and playing kick the can. But oh, it was a good life, the way it was back then. And no, I wouldn't change mine. I still remember when. My favorite things were baseball games. I played in Little League with all my friends. Made it to the final game, seeking fortune and our fame. On one more game our season would depend. It was Lion State Bank versus Mountain Dew. We were evenly matched. Now here's a story that I like to call the catch.
They couldn't have had a storytelling session in the ICU that night without the catch being at the top of the list. I tell the story of the catch as motivation to the Little Leaguers that I coach. That sentence right there would probably have provoked howls of laughter in the ICU that night. But yes, for the past decade I've helped coach my son's Little League team. Every year at the right moment, before a big game, I bring out the story of the catch. I tell these wide-eyed kids that there will be an opportunity in the game today to do something that people will talk about 40 years from now. In 2050, people will still tell the story. And then I give them my for instance. In 1967, two great Little League teams squared off for the Youth League Championship in a small town in Kansas.
I remember the last inning, the first 5-6 innings, whatever they were. I don't remember much about it, but that last inning was something you just don't forget.
I don't remember a lot anymore. I'm getting too old, I guess, but I can remember that game.
When the season started, if you looked at that lineup, knowing most of these kids, you'd pick Mountain Dew. You really would. You'd have picked Mountain Dew.
Lion State was ahead of us by 1 run, maybe 2, and we was coming in for our last bats. And in my mind, I kept thinking, if we can get one or two guys on base, Marty is coming up to bat and Shirley he'll bring him in and we'll win the game. I knew it was over.
Saw Butch go up to bat. I thought, oh boy, this could get serious here pretty quick. And
when he came up to bat, I had a good feeling. I thought, this game's in the bag. We got it.
Troy was pitching. I didn't know how many outs there were. Were they on first and second or third? What the deal was. All I remember, Troy was pitching. I hit the ball and thinking, that's got a chance.
I do remember being at third base, and I do remember Dan backpedaling with the arm, with the glove up in the air. It had to have been hit very high for Dan to have had that time to back up.
On that moonlit night, we were neck and neck. By the bottom of the sixth, it was 6-6. It was getting good, yeah, we were having fun. The seventh inning came and went without a run. But at the top of the eighth, it was Lion State. They scored a couple of runs, then they were leading 6-8.
Marty comes up to bat, and Blanche Perry, one of our kids' mother, always parked out in center field, and every time we'd do something good, she'd holler, "Yahoo, Mountain Dew." And I remember her telling me that she saw Dan back up a little bit and said, looked at his right fielder, and he says, "Oh crap, Marty's coming up to bat, back up." And they all backed up, and sure as heck Marty hit a shot that I thought it was out of there, and Dan backed up a little bit.
it was way out there, I know that. It's about as good a hit as I've ever seen any of the kids make in that league.
In the bottom of the eighth, Mountain Dew was at the plate. 2 runners on and they only had 1 out. A Butch stepped into the batter's box. Bat in hand, he started to talk. The people in the stands began to shout. But Troy pitched the ball and the audience reeled. A Butch drove it deep into center field. Well, it looked like it was gone. There was no doubt, and no 9-year-old had ever hit one out.
The Lion State Bank center fielder backpedaled all the way to the fence as he tracked the ball across the sky. Standing flat-footed, back against the fence, he stuck his left arm as high in the air as he could reach. We all watched the ball's flight from our positions on the field, as did the folks in the stands and those in cars that circled the field. Plop! The ball landed right in his mitt for the second out. It wasn't the last out of the inning, but that didn't matter as we all knew that that was the ball game.
At that point, I'm just running and going around first base. I hear somebody yell out, "Oh my God, he caught it." And I didn't know where that come from. And I'm still running around thinking, there's no way. So then he comes in, he doesn't throw the ball in, he runs it in, hands it to somebody and says, "He caught it."
You know, I had it all the way. There wasn't ever any doubt in my mind. I don't know why people called it a miracle or make any big deal of it. I mean, it was just a routine play. You've seen Willie Mays do the catch. It was something similar to that.
The part that I remember is Dan running in to second base. Like, I got it,
But Dan ran back with his glove held high toward center field fence, looking toward the sky. I was at first base, I could see it all, as Dan jumped up and he caught that ball. He looked at his glove in disbelief, but when I saw him smile, I sighed relief. Troy stepped the next guy out, and that was number 3. The Lion State Bank sailed on to victory.
Dan backed up a little bit, raised his glove up, and I think he closed his eyes, and he caught the ball. He made a great catch.
I don't know how often after that, but I do remember Manuel asking Dan, Dan, did you really catch that ball?
Dan did make a big catch, and ever since then, when I see Daniel, I always tease him a little bit about having his eyes closed when he caught it, and Dan just smiles. He doesn't say I did or I didn't, he just smiles.
They were closed. And I based that not only on I didn't see it, but the reaction, oh my God, he caught it. How did that happen? I think he was on first base. Oh my God, he caught it. What a miracle. That's what I'm basing it on. I'm sure he'll tell you differently, but I'm sticking with they were closed. The only reason they would have been open is so he didn't run into the fence on his way back. That's all he was looking for. When it actually happened, they were closed.
I remember that the surprise in Dan's eye that he caught it. I'll go with it. His eyes were open all the way because he was backpedaling, and he had to track it somehow. He was up against the fence. I think if he hadn't caught it, it would have gone over. I do remember the crowd yell.
The catch is him catching the ball, probably this very ball, because we didn't have a whole lot of balls then. If he hadn't caught the ball would have went over the fence, the game would have been over, and it'd been 9-8.
Well, the thing I remember about it was that we had our fingers crossed all the way through that game, and when I saw that hit out there, I thought, damn, he get it. he did. And I think maybe that Manuel's team was kind of demoralized at that point, and maybe I won't say they gave up, but I think maybe their morale wasn't nearly as high as the rest of the game as it had been. And I do remember Dan, the look on his face running in with that ball.
Then I heard some guy say, I know, when Dan caught that ball, his eyes were closed. I could not believe what I had heard. I said, that may be what you're hoping, but I know his eyes were open. Either way, my friend, I guess we won the game. Well, Dan made the catch, and he pulled us through it. We're proud we had what it took to do it, but I'd have to say that all along we knew it. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yes, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But oh, it was a good life, the way it was back then. And no, I wouldn't change mine, and I still remember when. But oh, it was a good life, the way it was back then. And no, I wouldn't change mine.
Although baseball plays a role in this story, the catch has evolved into more than a story about a game. Sure, Dan robbed Butch of a shining moment that night so long ago, but through the years they have become old friends. Decades later, we have all become old friends. Our friendships were cemented long before the events of those 10 seconds played out on the field. And when Dan was going through his heart transplant and recovery, Butch and many other teammates and friends were there in person and in spirit to support him. It wasn't just the shared experience of that season, that game, or that play that unite us. We shared the experience of growing up together. When Butch and the Daras visited Dan and his wife in the ICU for a night of storytelling, they told the stories that are in all of our hearts. The ones about the time we grew up in, the place we grew up. The story of the catch, while it is a vivid memory of a common moment that connects us, it is just one thread in the tapestry of our lives. But it is a strong thread, one in which life triumphs over defeat. That's my story, and I will continue to tell it every chance I get.